Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now we are underneath this Mark IV Mondeo and we are replacing the rear axle bushing, which looks like this. Kind of simple, used to be a nightmare, but we've a special tool now to make things a lot easier. There is a left and right, so be careful, make sure you get them up, make sure you get them the right way. We're also going to show you how to actually line this up to fit it. But I am going to kind of struggle getting everything. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to kind of show you what I'm going to take off. There's a few bits I can take off. There's no point me filming it. Like the shock, just removing a bolt. Take that off. This arm here, take the control arm off, because it just allows more room. You don't even need to take the wheel off. I have my transmission jack here supporting the wheel, because I'm going to have to slightly raise it just so I can take these bolts off, because if you try and take the bolts off without supporting the suspension and slightly taking the weight off, you can destroy the threads coming out. Then we got this plastic guard here, which is just held in by a couple of, I think it's 10 mils, and a couple of these kind of funny looking big washers. So once I've got that off, you'll be able to see an awful lot more, and we'll actually turn on the camera kind of properly and we'll do that. You can take the wheel off and remove this, but I find it easier to have the wheel on, because with the wheel on you can raise the suspension up slightly. So I'm going to take off this bolt here and take off this bolt here, take off a couple of here, and then yeah, we'll get cracking, sorted. Right, so I'll quickly show you this. So we're just going to slightly raise the suspension. This is an 18 mil, this is a 15 mil. Because I raised the suspension, there was no weight on this, but like I said, if you don't, you'll actually put weight on this and it could end up stripping the threads, which means, well, it just gives you more hassle, doesn't it? So now we'll whip out this one. This one tends to be a bit harder just because of where it is. So what I'm going to use for this is a ratchet spanner. Right, so once I undo that, we've got two 10 mils and two of these kind of funny flat washers with threads in. I'll show you them once I take it off. Just a, well, I'll show you now. You can get a socket on these, but a pair of adjustable pliers, or any pliers really, will kind of grab it. Once you grab it, just turn it. You see this? I'm just off camera, but you'll see that's what I mean. Very, very simple. I'm just struggling with light. I have a big, powerful light down here, but every time I look at the camera, it's blinding me. So once I get all this off, we'll turn the camera back on and the dog can see the rabbit. Sorted. Now this bolt, once you've actually got it out of the nut, the captive nut, it does get stuck on the main subframe bolt. But what you can do is, with the lever bar, slightly lever it down, just get a normal open-ended spanner, and you can just continue screwing it out, because the threads will go on the other side and it will just spin out. You're not doing any damage. I'm not putting any massive weight on it, you know, with the lever bar, and eventually it will come out. So that's just a handy hint to get that baby out. Now, hopefully you can see that. I'll get you close to it in a second. There is a couple of more bolts I forgot to say just in the wheel arch, but this was broke. Just like the other side was broke as well, so I didn't have to take that off, but that's something to bear in mind. But it's just a couple of little clips. Now, this is the actual main arm here, and this is where our bushing is. But as you can see, we've got a couple of things on it. We've got our handbrake cables, we've got ABS sensor, and we've also got our brake lines, and our brake lines here as well. So you do have to be careful. Don't just rip at it, because you'll break everything. Also, these are our two main bolts here. When you're jacking it up, make sure you jack it in a place. Don't put your jack here, otherwise you're not going to be able to get your bolts out. So just bear that in mind. You want to jack the car or jack it further away. It is relatively straightforward, providing you haven't got to deal with a lot of rust, and what you really want is this bushing to be really bad. And what I mean by that is, I'll show you, we want it to be spinning inside. It's easier if it's not, we can kind of snap it and cut it. But when these bushings are completely gone, it just makes your life a bit easier. If they're just starting to go, it's a lot harder to take it off. These are two 18 mils, and we've got a 13 mil here for, it's either 13 or 14, for the brake line, but that looks kind of rusty, so you have to be careful there. There's an 8mm behind here for the handbrake cable, and these are just clipped on the ABS sensor, and the brake line is just clipped on. So hopefully you can see this now, not getting in the way. There's our two 18mm, the big bolts. This is our handbrake cable. This is our brake line bracket here, ABS sensor there, and our brake line going towards the back. And this is the part I was on about, you want to be completely gone. You want this bushing on this inner ring to be completely away from it, because it just makes your life easier. But before you take it off, we need to mark everything. So as we drop it down, we need to mark where this is in relation to the bracket, which I'll show you, because otherwise, if you get it twisted, when you put it back up, you'll be constantly have a twist on the bushing and it won't last 5 minutes. So we do need to mark it before we take it off. So what I'm going to do is, we'll just start taking a few bolts off and we'll see what we can do. Right, because I'm kind of running out of light, as you can see, I'm going to kind of have to tell you what I'm going to take off and then take it off, because I'm going to get in the way of the camera anyway. So we've got two main 18mm bolts for the actual main body of the bushing. We have a 13 or 14mm bolt for this bracket, which holds the brake line on. We just got a clip there, then we've got two clips here for the ABS line, and then we've got a 7mm bolt behind here for the handbrake cable. It's just best to get that out of the way, because the tool that we're going to fit on, it just makes it easier to fit it on. So once I've undone that, you will see I'll be able to take everything down. And the other thing is, because I've undone this, you will see once I put the pressure down from the tyre, this will drop a lot lower than what it normally would do. This is out too, so we just need to, there we go. So that's out, and that will allow us just to push this down and to pop it out. So once I've done all that, we'll turn the camera back on and we'll get putting the new one in. Lovely, sorted. We're all good to go. As you can see, there is no tension on any of these, so we're okay. This is a handbrake cable out the way. What I've done, I have marked where these flat plates are, and you'll see why that is in a minute. So I've got two marks. That allows us, when we put the new one in, we know where to go, because as you can see, that is not dead straight, because as it lifts up, the angle changes. So if you was to put that in dead straight, you'd be putting too much pressure in there. So at least with them marks, it might not look it, but when the camera goes up, they are perfectly in line. It makes it a lot easier. What I've done is I wedged a lever bar there just with a block of wood. That just helps bring it down, and we can put our machine on there. But before we do, we need to take this out. Hopefully you can see everything okay. What I have done is, oh, and also you do need to make sure it's left and right. When you put it in, you want to make sure this is coming down, because this is where our bracket hangs. I've already got a big pair of Stilsons on this, and I've cracked it. It wasn't bad, but I've actually cracked it, so it'll allow me to, I say that, still stuck a bit. I thought I got it all off, but obviously not. Oh, I did. Right, and the reason is, it's easier to get this out of the way first. And what I do now is, with our tool, which I'll get, this is part of our tool. The light is just really bad. It's a Sealey tool, and as you can see, these little ears here, they're adjustable. So what I need to do is I need to put this on first, and I need to adjust the ears so I know that I've got this correct. So in other words, if you can see here, oh, there, the further these ears are in or out, the further the bushing will go in and out. So I need to know that this is correct. Get the rust off. I've already done this, by the way, but I'm just showing you what I've done. So as that goes on, what we're looking for is it to hit the underneath of that. So this, if I can just get this in shot so you can see, these here will allow the bushing to go in and not go too far. What you can also do, I've just got some more light on so you can see exactly what I'm doing. This is the cup that I'm using part of the tool. As you can see, it's got these two little ears, and you can set the distance from the tool to how far you want the new bushing in. Now I've already done this, but I line it up and I make sure them two little ears are touching the axle part, so I know once they two little ears hit this that the bushing is in the right place. We've also marked it, as you can see the marks there now, the two little pink marks, so I know when I put my new one in, I know what angle to do. But what you can also do is, now this is not that important, but behind here you can actually see the lip, how much is sticking out. Now believe it or not, these are never actually completely straight. The bottom, well in the ones I've always seen, the bottom, which I'll show you in a second, is always out more than the top. So they actually go in at a slight angle, but again, that's why you set the two ears in the tool and it will put it back exactly the same place. You don't have to be 100% accurate with it because we have a lot of movement in there. So if you are slightly bit off, you're okay. And once you get it tracked, because obviously after you've done this, you're gonna have to get it tracked on a proper machine with the 4 laser things coming off it, and they can actually adjust it if you're slightly off. So don't worry about that too much. You don't need to get that 100% on because we do have a good bit of movement, but you want to get it as close as you can just to make your life easier. So you can see the marks I am talking about, and when I come round here, you can see how much is sticking out at the bottom here, and you can actually see, even on camera, you can see the top isn't sticking out as much as the bottom. It's kind of on a slight little angle. So I've marked the two ears on the tool to hit this. Once they hit this plate here, which doesn't move, I know it's in absolutely perfect. So I hope that, yeah, you can see the two little ears now. I hope that makes a lot more sense. When it's there and I'm pushing in, as soon as them ears hit the ground or hit this arm here, I know that's in the right place. The reason why I say it's easier to take the middle out is because all I've got to do now is get my air chisel and slightly bend this up, and this will pop the whole thing out. It means I don't have to try and push it out or fart around with it or do anything. I can get this out really quite quickly and easily. So we'll get the daddy out. This is where you need goggles, ear muffs and all that. As you can see, that is bending the bottom, which is what I want. I didn't need that though. But anyway, we're still recording. It doesn't matter for this. And as you can see, very, very easy. That came out without me trying to press it or do anything like that. So there we go. I'm going to have to reset this arm down. I can't see anything now because I'm blinded by the light. But as you can see, hopefully, let's have to get in a better light and I'll show you that. What we want to do now is we want to clean inside here. Now this, like the other side, isn't too rusty. You don't want to take too much out of here. If you start getting, you know, grinders and stuff in there and you take too much material off, the new bushing is going to be way too loose and it's not going to work. So if it is rusty, just kind of take the rust off and really be careful. Don't take too much off because you will be surprised how easy it is to take too much off that. Right, hopefully you can see this. If you look at how much is rusty there, there's only a couple of mil, maybe 2 mil. And as I turn it around, you can see, especially there, there is twice as much sticking out as there is down there. So that's, it doesn't go in dead straight. I know that sounds crazy, but it doesn't. And that's, you want to get this as close as you can just so it doesn't put as much stress on the bushing. But that's why the tool comes in handy, because the tool is going to allow us to set this. So hopefully you get the idea with that. Right, hopefully I've sorted out the light situation. Now my battery's about to die on the camera. So we're all set up again, ready to actually install this bushing. I'm using a Sealey tool. I can't remember what the model number is off the top of my head, but I'll put it on the screen, and that's the tool essentially we're going to use to install the new bushing. Sorted. Okay, new battery and all that. Now what you get is you get a couple of different rings, but this is the ring I'm using. There's magnets on this and there's also a split. This lines up, so it goes over where the actual brake line connects to, and it actually magnetizes itself on, so you can kind of leave it. You can forget about it and leave it. Then we need the actual body of the tool. Now you need the handbrake cable out of the way, and that needs to go in just like that. And then what we need is the cup of the tool. Now, as you can see, I've already slid the bearing in and it into the cup, or the bushing, should I say. So what we now need to do is we need to get this the right way for a start. So we know we need this bolt down here. But with the two little wings that are kind of sticking out, if you can see that, I'm going to line them up with my pink marks, because that means then I know that I've got it lined up. And it will only go as far as these two little ears, so that I then know it's in far enough. It really is as simple as that. So we just need to get all this in and kind of lined up, which can be kind of tricky. Oh, did you see that? What a catch. Again, it's so much easier when you're not filming it. So, what I need to do before I worry about getting it lined up, I just want to get this in place. Screw this in, just to snug it in place, and then I can worry about lining it up afterwards. This can be a bit fiddly. Once you get it in, believe me, it goes in nice and easy. There we go. Kind of in place now, I think. Now, just need to line this up. There we go. Screw that in. Now, you do not use any type of air tools on this, because you will destroy it. It's not designed for that. I tend to just use this kind of a 1/2 inch ratchet, not a long one, because if it's not going in nice and easy, you've got a problem. You don't want to be forcing these in. So what I can do now I've more or less got this where I need it. Just going to move that, and then I can twist the whole cup to where I need it. So as you can see in the middle, I can twist that, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this up with my two marks. It really is as simple as that. Once I know we are lined up with my marks, which we are there now, I might be in the way of the camera, but we are there, I now know this doesn't seem to, there we go. That's better. Now, just want to double check again. We're lined up with my marks. If you're unsure, you just hold the pen. That's the way I did it. I got the pen like that, and I just then made my mark, and as you can see, hopefully you can see that, that lines up with that mark, and that lines up with that mark. So I know we're now lined up. Bit of lube, inside and out. And like I said, this should go in really, really easy. If it's struggling, it's because you maybe got a problem or you're not lined up properly or something. But really, this should go in so nice. And like I said, what I'm doing is I'm waiting, which I'll get the camera around here in a second. I'm just waiting for these two to bottom out. Then I know it's pushed it in enough. It really is there. So I'm just going to keep going until I get it a bit closer. Another good thing to do is just lube up your threads. Some people do say put grease on the threads. I don't like putting grease on the threads, because if you put it down in there, you're going to get all bits of crap in it. At least when you just lube it up like that, you know, it will eventually just fall off, and you're not going to really get any crap in it, or you're not going to get any crap that stays in it. And just nice and slowly, this will go in. It's always just a good thing just to check it to make sure everything is good. And like I said, you want to line everything up first, because as you can see, once I've sprayed the lube, I've rubbed away my line a bit, but I know we're okay. That's fallen again, but it doesn't really matter. We can do it without that. It just is a bit easier. It's going in nice and easy. Getting close now. Couple more and we should be in. And that's it, we've bottomed out, I think. Yeah. I'll bring the camera in this way now and you'll see we've bottomed out. Just looking in there. The bottom is further out than the top, so we're in more or less the same. Like I said, never going to be 100%, but you do the rest with tracking. So important to track it after you do this. So important. You can see we've we've bottomed out on these two ears, top and bottom. So we cannot push that any further, but we don't need to. And there we go. Now, some people might say, well, why don't you just measure it? The problem is, unless your bushings are exactly the same size, measuring it is kind of a waste of time. If this is 2 mil short or 2 mil bigger than the other one, well, then measuring it isn't going to make any difference at all. This tool just makes your life so much simpler. And there we go, that's in. So all I got to do now is screw it back out, and it's in. Lovely. You really don't need me to see this screwing out. One thing I will say is you do have to be careful, especially with this back bolt, because I've seen, and I've even struggled myself sometimes, especially on the other side with the exhaust being in the way, you know, you could have problems with this bolt. So make sure you get everything kind of level up first. This is where the transmission jack really comes in handy. So I'm just going to take all this off, and also this here, this arm can be a bitch to get back into, but that's just the way you have to do it. The shock is nice and easy, but this arm can be a bit annoying, and this back bolt hopefully won't have these problems, but we'll see. So I'm just going to take all this off now, and once I've done that, we'll turn the camera back on. Right, so everything's off. All I need to do is make sure nothing's caught. I just want to put this rubber bushing on the top first, because you can't do that when it's over the top. That then goes onto there, make sure these aren't in the way, and they're not. So pump up the wheel. And again, you want to be careful, make sure if you're on the floor or anything, you're not pumping it off your jacks or anything like that. I did also mark the top of the body where the old one goes on, but like I said, don't worry about that too much, because if this is not exactly the same make or exactly the same, you know, and it's not going to line up anyway, but it just gives you a rough idea. This, to be fair, looks like it's lining up perfectly, but again, that doesn't really mean anything. And I'm happy with that. I can see both holes nice and clearly. This needs some Loctite on. So I put some Loctite on, and I just want to put them, not all the way yet, just want to get them started. Make sure they're both going straight, which they are. They both go in, no problems at all. That's good. Now, to try and get this one in can be quite difficult. So let's see if this is going to play ball with us. Again, you want to put Loctite on there as well. This can be a bit tricky because, as you can see, I'm fighting against everything here. I'm fighting against it's hitting that bolt, and I'm fighting against that it's slightly turned. Now, so I've got it clear of the bolt, but we need to kind of twist the arm that way because it's just kinked. Hopefully that should get out some of the keyboard warriors.
You did that, I can't believe you did that. I've been a mechanic for 50 million years and we never did that.
Good for you. But you're wrong. Right, as you can see, I can just twist that now with this, and hopefully, and I say hopefully, just kind of get it in place. But there's never, it's never guaranteed. If this fits past there, what I should really do is if I just undid that bolt there, would make my life so much easier, but I don't want to do that. And normally I would, because you just say, ah, it's just one bolt. But again, that's moving the whole rear subframe, and it could just cause more tracking problems than I really need. So if I just use this tool to twist the arm straight and hopefully just screw this in, and eventually we will be in. Bit of a jiggling pokery. Yeah, we're going in, so that's good. I think anyway. Ah yeah, we're going in. Right, so we'll screw that one in, but again, there's no point me showing you all that. But believe me, that can be a little bitch that you could be spending ages. Again, I want to put some Loctite on this, bang that in. This one is nice and easy because the shock will go up, as you can see, quite easy. And it's just a case of me getting that nice and flat and screwing in, because again, you don't want any pressure on this because you could cross-thread that very easy. That was screwing nice. That's going to take a few minutes to screw in, but it's going to go in. And then it's just a case of tightening up these, but I'm going to tighten up them first before I tighten up them, because once they're in, it might need to be moved slightly. I'm going to line it up as best I can with the marks, but again, I'm not worried about it because I have to track it, so I'm not worried about if it's not 100% in line with the old marks, because again, this is maybe this is a different make of a bushing. It could be slightly bigger, slightly smaller. You just don't know. So I'm going to screw them in, then I'll turn the camera back on. Now it's back in, and I can't look at the camera because the light's blinding me. So we've tightened up these two 18mm, tightened up this 18mm, and tightened up this 15mm. They can be a bit tricky, but we got it in. I thought it was in on camera, but it actually wasn't, but it doesn't matter, we got it in. What I'm going to do now is just clip these brake lines on, push back the plastic clips for the ABS, hope I'm not getting in the way. They just push back in. And then all I need to do is put this back in. It has to go in at a slight angle, push it in and clip it down. 7mm bolt goes on that. And then the 13 on that. And then just a plastic tray, which I really don't like them plastic trays. This brake line here is quite rusty, and you can't see it with the plastic tray on. It's just pointless. So I'm going to have to tell the customer that. And that's the problem with the plastic trays. They don't take them off in a test. We don't take them off because they can break in all sorts. So it's a nightmare. They shouldn't really have them on. It's not, the car isn't quick enough to be aerodynamical to have a problem with that. Yeah, I know they look nice and neat when you look underneath the car, but I just don't like them. Put this clip back in here for the handbrake. Just put that 7mm bolt back in there and the little plastic tray, and that's it. Job's a good one. But like I said, make sure you get this track, because now we've moved with the Casper, the friendly ghost, the camber, everything has been, you know, completely changed. Even if you drive down the road and you think everything's okay, believe me, get it tracked, because you will destroy your tyres very, very quickly. And once you've done something like this, the best thing to do is get it tracked on one of them big, huge laser machines that shoots lasers from every wheel, and it has the factory thing loaded into the computer so it knows where each wheel should be. Just going to tighten up all these, then I have to take it down because I don't have one of them big machines. I just have the 4-wheel laser jobs. I don't have the big one. So I'm going to take that down and get it done, and then we can hand it back to the customer. So that's it. Look, hope it helps. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that. Don't forget, links up there, links down below. But most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.